Hello? Huh? Hold on, guys. I'm trying to get through to somebody. Yeah. I'm trying to get through to Alan Greenspan. This is Bobby B. I got to talk to him right away. I want to know what happened, why there was a bubble in the housing market. Just tell him that. He'll listen to me. He's not there? Who? I don't care. I'll talk to his little disciple Bernanke. Is he around? Just tell him Bobby B wants to talk to him right now. I'm trying to get a hold of Alan Greenspan, yes. Okay. Well, he doesn't know who Bobby B is, he said? Okay. Well, to hell with him then. I don't even care. Tell him to go stick it. Yeah, you too. Boy. What do we pay those people for? I mean, Jesus Christ. You try to call them, I guess we don't really pay them anyway, if you think about it. Just because they're the Federal Reserve doesn't mean they're part of the government. They're not really federal. They're not like, they're about as federal as Federal Express. Nobody ever talks to me anyway. I tried to call him. Anyway, this video, I wanted to talk to him and have an interview with him, but of course he doesn't want to talk to me. I don't know why. But I wanted to talk about the housing bubble and how it happened. And when I started doing my research, I realized that it looked like Greenspan was the whole architect of the whole bubble that was created because he kept interest rates so low. So anyway, that was my thinking. And then I wanted to talk to his little sidekick Bernanke. But he's about as goofy as the rest of them. But I thought maybe he'd have some info and I could talk to him, But all right, let's start the video anyway. Forget about that. What I was trying to explain in this particular video is, this housing bubble that supposedly created the whole end of the world. I mean, I think it's a little, if you think about this, how that, it's not quite that possible. I mean, you could buy for the amount of money they spent in Washington already, you could have bought every house in the whole country. I mean, Jesus Christ, we got how many trillions of dollars of real estate even exists, and now we're already into the trillions here. So I started, like I said, I got time, a lot of time on my hands. I got I'm making me some spaghetti, and I eat my spaghetti, I get crazy, and I work the fries everywhere, and she gave me this little bib to wear, and that way I don't get it all over my shirts that she gets me, But, that's just, I forgot to take it off. I'll get to it later. But the bottom line is, let's talk about the housing bubble and how that happens, And, love you, Mom. Stay right there. What happened with it's these masters of the universe people. I mean, what they do to make everything work in their little way to control the world. Little bastards. I'll kick them out right now. Stick him in my problem. Anyway, so it kind of started like in the last few years. This is kind of what happened. After the dot-com bubble bust, then everything kind of went south economically, and so. They had to come up with another, plan B, tree, E, D, F, G, whatever plan they had going. But they always got some plan going. So the economic bubble burst, and so they had to come up with something. And so they said, hey, let's start a war, That's what we usually do. What they do is they start a war, and, they can get a bunch of money making their war stuff, Can you say Halliburton? Anyway, so back in, let's say, 01, they started this war with their little crazy little crashing planes into buildings and stuff. And then, a couple of years later, they had us all psyched up into believing, it was Saddam Hussein. We got to go kill Iraq, let's go blow that place up because that makes a lot of sense, So, that's kind of what these guys do, they come up with the whole, thing where they trap us into this whole concept. It's like they create a problem, and then there's a reaction, and then there's their solution. And they do it all. The problem, the reaction, and the solution. Well, we do the reaction part. They do the problem and the solution part. That's how the Illuminati get us. They know how to rule the world with mind control. And it has very much to do with the housing bubble and their little plan, their little master plan. It's such a crazy little thing. Nobody understands the magnitude of energy and knowledge that comes out of here. I'm pure Anyway, here's how their little plan works. The first thing they do is, like I said, they create the problem. So the first problem they created was we go to war, and of course that's the beginning. And then once we're in war, things start going down the tuba, and then we got to spend all our money on war, and then, Green's found through his economic policies, keeping the interest rates low, everybody's going crazy, borrowing more money, and it goes on like this for a while, and then all of a sudden, here we are. Lots of wars that are costing us trillions. We got 3 wars going on, we're in 130 countries with our military, it's crazy. I mean, it's the American Empire. We're just another empire, an extension of the British Empire, let's face it. We never escaped the bastards. We tried for a while. But anyway, so now we're in this situation where we've blown all our money, we're in all these wars, and we got no cash, and the dollar's about ready to default, and how are we going to get out of this mess? I don't know. Gee, I wonder who has the solution. I wonder who has the solution. Gee, Mr. Illuminaticus. Yeah, he's the one, of course. And, they're all over there, the Queen and the England and banks, and they're all sitting around. We have the solution. We'll make little people do what we tell them, the sheeples. Okay. So anyway, that's what we got going now. So problem, they create a war. They create the mass spending. They create a situation where through the derivatives, they took all the loans that went out and then they resold them as derivatives and more derivatives and spread that stuff out like poison and throughout the rest of the world and economic system, So now all these derivatives are trillions and trillions of derivatives of home loans. So when they try to blame the average American because somebody defaulted on a few loans, yeah, that happened, but that's not what's going on. That's not the cause of it. They just want you to believe that so that you feel, like it's your fault. And, of course, any solutions that they come out with, you'll say, oh, that's okay, since we were such bad little kids and we borrowed money and we can't pay now. So now we must listen to everything that they say and do what they say. Remember, problem, reaction, solution. This is the way of the ruling elite, okay? So now we're in the problem stage, and soon they're coming out with the solution stage, which will be, of course, like I mentioned before, a one world government, a one world currency, and a whole bunch of other things they want to come out with. But back to the housing bubble, it started with just some, families that, defaulted on their loans and stuff, so it got kind of bad, but then, then everything else kicked in and they want to blame us. So, don't be fooled when you hear the news that, it was all caused by those bad loans going out. Sure, that was part of the process, and we fell into that trap, the little sheeples, like you and me and everybody, the sheeples, we fell into it, and of course, now here we are. But now we got to be aware of it, we got to figure out how to get out of this mess. I don't think there's any way out of it at this point. I mean, we're going to have to go through this process. There's going to be a collapse of the economic currencies and stuff, and we're going to have to go through this whole point. Again, there's nothing we can do to get out of this thing. I think what they're trying to do is they're just trying to eliminate the middle class. They don't want people. They want people, the super rich billionaire, masters of the universe people, and then they want just the sheeples, at the very bottom, making, minimum wage or, whatever per hour jobs. They don't want any millionaires or successful middle class or upper middle class. They want the rich kings and the sheeple, the serfs, That goes back to the old days again, So that's kind of where we are. So, the whole thing about the housing bubble, again, it's just bait and switch, it's something to blame us on so we'll feel bad. But the housing bubble, that's history. That could have been bought and paid for with a first bailout, space. You could have bought every house in the United States for $500 billion or $1 trillion, even a couple trillion, easily would have covered most of the real estate. But certainly the loans that were going to go bad could have been covered by, half of that. So what is all this money going to now? We already know it's going to the banks, and again, it's the largest, most massive redistribution of wealth in the history of the world. It's sick, What they do, and they do this with this whole process of problem, reaction, solution. It's been done many, many times. And think about it. It's so basic. I mean, they drive where we are right now through deflation. They drive the prices down where they're worth nothing, okay? Houses aren't worth anything. Stock prices aren't worth anything, okay? Everybody's flat broke. Then the people that